Imagine a nation where almost half the population claims no religion at all, and where women outnumber men so drastically that loneliness has become a quiet epidemic. This isn't some dystopian novel, it's Estonia, a tiny Baltic state with one of the strangest demographic and cultural profiles in Europe. On the surface, Estonia feels like a digital paradise, the most advanced e-society in the world, where voting, banking, and even medical records exist entirely online. But underneath the high-tech facade lies a society wrestling with an identity that defies tradition. Why are so many Estonians turning away from faith? And what does it mean for the women who live in one of the most gender-imbalanced countries in Europe? Stay with me, because in this journey, we'll peel back the glossy headlines to uncover the contradictions from ancient pagan rituals that still linger in the forests, to the silent struggle shaping family life, to the question nobody dares to ask. What happens when progress leaves intimacy behind? This is not the Estonia you've seen in travel brochures. This is the Estonia that most of the world never talks about. You're about to discover 15 mind-bending realities that reveal why Estonia might be the most misunderstood country in Europe. If you're ready to see a nation that rewrote the rules of civilization, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Tell me in the comments which of these facts you knew before today. Number 1. The digital ghosts who never touch paper. Estonia didn't just join the digital revolution, they became it. This nation of 1.3 million people created Skype, transformed their entire government into code, and now exists almost entirely online. Citizens vote from their laptops, receive prescriptions through apps, and start businesses in 18 minutes without ever visiting an office. But here's the twist that shocks visitors. This hyper-connected society is built on a foundation of profound silence and solitude. While other nations debate digital privacy, Estonians have voluntarily uploaded their entire lives to the cloud. They call it e-Estonia. But locals know it as something deeper, the ultimate expression of their centuries-old desire for efficiency and independence. The same people who spent 800 years under foreign rule now control their destiny through algorithms and encryption. Every Estonian carries a digital ID card that unlocks their entire existence, yet they remain one of the most private, reserved cultures in Europe. This isn't just technological advancement, it's cultural survival through code. But what happens when the most connected society meets the loneliest hearts? Number 2. The matriarchs on motorcycles. On Kinu Island, something extraordinary has evolved over generations. Here, women don't just wear the pants, they literally wear traditional striped skirts while commanding motorcycles with sidecars, leading families, and preserving culture. This UNESCO-recognized community operates as a living matriarchy where men go to sea for months, leaving women to govern everything from finance to festivals. These aren't modern feminists making a statement. This is 800 years of practical necessity that created Europe's most successful female-led society. The women of Kinu don't just preserve traditions, they actively live them while adapting to modern needs. Watch a 60-year-old grandmother in her colorful kirt skirt kickstart a vintage motorcycle to deliver mail across the island. This isn't performance. This is power refined through generations of necessity. The island's cultural practices, from polyphonic singing to intricate handicrafts, survived because women became the guardians of identity while men battled the Baltic Sea. Today, these matriarchs run businesses, make political decisions, and maintain the delicate balance between tradition and modernity. What makes this even more fascinating is how this system naturally evolved without conflict or revolution. It simply worked better. Yet, this female leadership connects to an even larger demographic shift across all of Estonia. Number 3. The arithmetic of loneliness. The numbers tell a story that reshapes entire communities. Estonian demographics reveal a gender gap that influences everything from dating culture to political representation. Women significantly outnumber men, particularly in the 25-45 age bracket, creating social dynamics that most travelers never witness. This isn't just statistics, it's reshaping how relationships form, how families function, and how society adapts to mathematical reality. Estonian women have responded by becoming fiercely independent, highly educated, and professionally dominant in fields like technology and academia. But here's what visitors miss. This demographic reality has created a dating culture unlike anywhere else in Europe. Estonian men know they're outnumbered, leading to relationships that prioritize genuine connection over superficial charm. There's no room for games when mathematical reality demands authenticity. The result is a society where women hold significant economic and social power, not through activism but through pure demographic advantage. If you think this demographic shift affects Estonian society, type 3 in the comments. If you believe it doesn't significantly impact their culture, type 7. This mathematical reality connects to their approach to spirituality in unexpected ways. Number 4. The godless forest worshippers. Estonia holds the distinction of being one of the world's least religious nations, with fewer than 20% claiming any active faith. But this isn't atheism born from rebellion or intellectualism. It's something far more profound and ancient. These people never lost their connection to the divine. They simply never moved it indoors. Step into any Estonian forest and you'll understand their real cathedral. Over 50% of the country remains forested, and these woodlands function as sacred space in ways that organized religion never achieved. Estonians practice what anthropologists call practical paganism, a deep, unspoken reverence for nature that predates Christianity by millennia. They don't pray in buildings. They find transcendence in bog, walking at sunrise, in the silence of snow-covered pines, in the ancient ritual of the smoke sauna. This isn't nature worship as outsiders understand it. It's something quieter, more integrated into daily existence. Every weekend, thousands escape cities for their forest cottages, not for recreation, but for spiritual restoration. The Jaanapave midsummer bonfires aren't quaint traditions. They're genuine moments of communal transcendence that connect modern Estonians to their pre-Christian ancestors. This spiritual connection to landscape reveals itself in their most important cultural practice. Number 5. The revolution that sang freedom into existence. Between 1987 and 1991, Estonia accomplished something unprecedented in human history. They overthrew an empire through song. The singing revolution wasn't metaphorical. It was hundreds of thousands of people gathering on the Tallinn Song Festival grounds, their voices rising in forbidden patriotic songs that the Soviet Union had banned for decades. Picture this scene. A sea of people stretching beyond the horizon, their collective voice creating sound waves powerful enough to shake buildings, singing songs that could have led to imprisonment or death just years before. This wasn't protest music or political rally entertainment. This was spiritual warfare conducted through harmony. The Estonian choral tradition runs so deep that their song and dance festival, held every 5 years, features a united choir of over 30,000 singers. But during the revolution, these weren't just songs. They were weapons of cultural survival, declarations of independence encoded in melody and delivered through the most powerful human instrument of all, the collective voice. The Soviet tanks never came because how do you silence an entire nation when their weapon is song? The revolution succeeded because it was built on something the occupiers could never understand or destroy. The Estonian soul expressed through ancient musical traditions that connected every citizen to their deepest identity. This vocal tradition connects to another uniquely Estonian gathering space. Number 6. The naked truth about sacred steam. The Estonian sauna isn't recreation. It's a fundamental life practice that reveals the soul of this culture. The traditional smoke sauna, recognized by UNESCO as cultural heritage, operates as democracy in its purest form. Inside these dark, earth-scented chambers, social hierarchies dissolve entirely. Corporate executives sit naked beside farm workers, professors sweat alongside plumbers, and conversation flows with an honesty impossible in the clothed world. The ritual follows ancient protocols. Hours of gradual heating, the rhythmic whisking with birch branches called vittomine, periods of contemplative silence, and the shocking plunge into ice-cold water or snow. But this isn't about physical cleansing, it's about psychological and spiritual renewal. Estonians conduct their most important conversations in saunas, make their crucial decisions in that heated democracy, and maintain their closest friendships through this weekly ritual. The sauna reveals why Estonians appear reserved in public. They save their authentic selves for these sacred spaces where pretense becomes impossible. Every major life event, from birth celebrations to funeral preparations, involves the sauna. Business deals are finalized here, family disputes resolved, and romantic relationships either deepened or ended based on sauna compatibility. This communal vulnerability explains their approach to personal relationships. Number 7. The art of comfortable silence. Estonian communication operates on principles that confuse and sometimes offend visitors from more verbally expressive cultures. Silence isn't awkward here. It's comfortable, necessary, and often more meaningful than words. Estonians have perfected the art of saying nothing while communicating everything. This isn't shyness or unfriendliness, it's cultural efficiency applied to human interaction. Small talk serves no purpose in Estonian society because authentic communication requires substance, not social lubrication. When Estonians speak, their words carry weight and intention. They don't fill silence with noise because silence contains its own information. This communication style reflects their relationship with their landscape, the vast forests, the contemplative bogs, the endless winter nights that teach patience and introspection. Visitors often interpret this reserved nature as coldness, but they're witnessing something more sophisticated, a culture that values quality over quantity in all human exchanges. Estonian friendships develop slowly but run incredibly deep because they're built on genuine compatibility rather than social convenience. Once you earn an Estonian's trust, you've gained a loyal ally for life, someone who will remember your birthday 20 years later and help you move house without being asked. This reserved nature masks their most passionate cultural obsession. Number 8. The Mushroom Hunters' Secret Society. Every autumn, Estonia transforms into a nation of foragers, engaged in their most competitive and secretive activity. Mushroom hunting isn't a hobby here, it's a cultural obsession that reveals the Estonian character in its purest form. Families guard their mushroom spots like state secrets, passing down precise GPS coordinates through generations with more security than banking information. The forests yield dozens of edible varieties, from the prized porcini to the humble chanterelle, but finding them requires knowledge that books can't teach and experience that takes decades to develop. Watch Estonian families disappear into the woods at dawn, armed with wicker baskets and generations of accumulated wisdom about soil conditions, weather patterns, and the subtle signs that indicate mushroom territory. This isn't just food gathering. It's the continuation of ancient survival skills that kept their ancestors alive through countless harsh winters. The competition is fierce but unspoken. Returning home with a basket full of perfect mushrooms earns respect that money can't buy. The mushroom knowledge gets passed down through families like heirlooms, creating an informal network of forest experts who can read the landscape like a book. This foraging tradition connects modern Estonians to their pre-industrial past while providing genuine sustenance and deep satisfaction that supermarket shopping can never match. Ask yourself, have you ever experienced such intimate knowledge of your local environment? Share your thoughts in the comment. Number 9. The invisible borders of island time. Estonia's 222 islands each operate on their own version of reality, where time moves differently and traditions survive that have vanished from the mainland. Saaremaa, the largest island, feels like traveling back 3 centuries, where juniper-scented air carries the sound of ancient windmills, and the rhythm of life follows seasons rather than schedules. The ferry journey to these islands isn't just transportation, it's a portal to a different way of existing. Island Estonians speak differently, cook differently, and approach relationships with an intimacy that mainland life rarely allows. On Hiiumaa, lighthouse keepers still maintain their solitary vigil, tending beacons that have guided ships for centuries. The island communities operate on principles of mutual aid that urban life has forgotten. When winter storms isolate these populations for weeks, they rely on networks of support that have evolved over generations. Island children grow up understanding weather patterns, tide schedules, and seasonal migration routes with precision that would shame most meteorologists. The islands preserve handicraft traditions, intricate knitting patterns, juniper woodworking, traditional brewing techniques that would have disappeared if not for this geographical isolation. Each island develops its own dialect, its own customs, its own approach to celebrating life's milestones. What fascinates visitors is how these communities maintain their unique identities while staying connected to modern Estonian culture through technology and seasonal migration to the mainland. This island isolation preserves traditions that reveal Estonia's deepest cultural layers. Number 10. The pagan fire that never dies. Jaanipäev, celebrated on June 23rd, isn't just Estonia's biggest holiday. It's a direct line to pre-Christian consciousness that survived 800 years of foreign occupation and aggressive Christianization. This midsummer celebration centers around massive bonfires that burn throughout the shortest night of the year, connecting modern Estonians to their ancient ancestors in ways that organized religion never achieved. The fires aren't decorative. They're functional magic designed to ensure good harvests, ward off evil, and celebrate the peak of solar power. Families gather branches for weeks before the celebration, building pyres that reach 15 feet high and burn until dawn. The tradition includes jumping over smaller fires for luck, dancing around the flames until exhaustion, and staying awake through the entire white night. But here's what most visitors miss. This isn't nostalgic recreation of old customs. Estonians genuinely believe in the power of these rituals. They search for the mythical fern flower that blooms only on this magical night, brew special beer with herbs gathered specifically for the celebration, and use the ashes from the bonfires to fertilize their garden. The celebration connects urban professionals to rural traditions, northern Estonians to southern customs, and individuals to their collective cultural DNA in ways that few modern societies still experience. This connection to ancient practices extends to their most mysterious landscapes. Number 11. The walking on water meditation. Estonia's bogs present landscapes, so alien they appear extraterrestrial, yet they function as meditation spaces that produce profound psychological effects on visitors. These ancient wetlands, formed over 8,000 years, create an environment where sound disappears, time seems suspended, and the normal rules of walking no longer apply. The wooden boardwalks that traverse places like Viru Bog aren't just practical infrastructure, they're pathways into altered consciousness. Walking these narrow paths requires complete attention to each step, while surrounded by a landscape that challenges every assumption about what Earth should look like. The bog pools act as perfect mirrors, doubling the sky and creating visual effects that photography can't capture. The silence here isn't merely quiet, it's the absence of all familiar sounds, creating an acoustic environment that most humans never experience. Estonians use bog walking for processing grief, making major life decisions, and achieving the mental clarity that urban environments prevent. The landscape's otherworldly beauty produces a meditative state that arrives without effort or technique. Sunrise bog walks generate experiences that visitors describe as spiritual awakenings, psychological breakthroughs, or simply the most peaceful moments of their lives. This connection to unusual landscapes extends to their most surprising urban environment. Number 12. The medieval city that runs on code. Tallinn's Old Town creates one of Europe's most jarring contrasts, medieval streets where you can complete every government transaction through your smartphone. Walk the same cobblestones where Hanseatic merchants traded 5 centuries ago, then use an app to vote in national elections, register a business, or access your complete medical history. This isn't two different worlds occupying the same space. It's Estonia's genius for preserving heritage while embracing radical innovation. The medieval walls that once protected the city from invading armies now shelter startup offices and digital nomad cafes. Guild halls that housed craftsmen for centuries now host hackathons and cryptocurrency conferences. The town hall square, where merchants once conducted business through handshakes and coin exchanges, now operates as a testing ground for blockchain technology and digital payment systems. Visitors experience cognitive dissonance walking from a 14th century cathedral directly into a cafe where customers pay through facial recognition and order through AI assistants. This seamless integration of ancient and ultra-modern reveals the Estonian genius for adaptation without abandonment. They didn't destroy their past to build their future. They programmed their heritage into the digital age. This fusion of old and new creates opportunities for cultural experiences impossible anywhere else. Number 13. The food that remembers survival. Estonian cuisine operates as edible history, with every traditional dish encoding centuries of survival through harsh winters, foreign occupation, and resource scarcity. The dark rye bread called must libe isn't just food, it's cultural DNA in digestible form, baked using techniques that sustain generations through famines and wars. This dense, slightly sweet bread requires patience to appreciate, but once you understand its place in Estonian survival, every bite carries historical weight. The blood sausage variver seems shocking to outsiders until you realize it represents the ultimate expression of waste-nothing survival ethics that kept families alive when every calorie mattered. Estonians develop preservation techniques, smoking, pickling, fermenting that transforms simple ingredients into complex flavors while ensuring nutrition through months of darkness and cold. The national obsession with sprats, tiny smoked fish piled high on rye bread, reflects a coastal culture that learned to maximize protein from the Baltic Sea's limited offerings. Modern Estonian restaurants now elevate these survival foods into sophisticated cuisine, but the emotional connection remains unchanged. Sharing these traditional foods creates bonds that transcend normal social interactions because you're literally consuming the same sustenance that sustained their ancestors through centuries of hardship. Type 13 in the comments if you believe food can carry cultural memory, or 31 if you think cuisine is just about taste and nutrition. Number 14. The language that refused to die. Estonian belongs to the Finno-Ugric language family, making it more closely related to Finnish and Hungarian than to any other European language. This linguistic isolation should have doomed it to extinction during 800 years of foreign rule by Danes, Germans, Swedes, and Russians, each attempting to replace it with their own tongues. Instead, Estonian not only survived but thrived, becoming one of the most complex and expressive languages in Europe. The grammar contains 14 cases, creating precision in expression that other languages can't match. Estonian speakers can convey emotional subtleties, spatial relationships, and temporal concepts with single words that require entire sentences in simpler languages. But here's what makes this miraculous. The language survived because families secretly taught it in hidden schools, preserved it in forbidden folk songs, and encoded it in handicraft patterns that occupying forces couldn't decipher. Mothers whispered Estonian lullabies that carried not just melody but coded resistance messages. The language became a secret weapon of cultural preservation, hidden in plain sight through generations of speakers who risked punishment to keep their words alive. Today's digital Estonia operates primarily in Estonian, proving that this ancient tongue adapts perfectly to cutting-edge technology. The language that survived medieval conquests now programs artificial intelligence and writes blockchain contracts. Type 14 if you believe language shapes national identity, or 41 if you think language is just a communication tool. Number 15. The rivers that remember everything. Estonian waterways carry stories that reveal the deepest truths about this culture's relationship with memory and place. The Emajongi River, flowing through Tartu, has witnessed student revolutions, Soviet deportations, and independence celebrations. But it also holds quieter stories of families who gathered on its banks during the darkest years of occupation, speaking Estonian when it was dangerous to do so. Lake Peipsi, the fourth largest lake in Europe, creates a natural border where Estonian fishing villages face Russian Old Believer communities across waters that have connected and divided cultures for centuries. These waters don't just sustain life, they preserve cultural memory in ways that buildings and documents cannot. Every spring flood brings new stories while carrying away others, creating a liquid archive of Estonian experience that locals read like historians study books. The coastal waters around the islands hold shipwrecks from every era of Baltic conflict, creating underwater museums that commemorate centuries of struggle and survival. Estonian children learn to read these waters, understanding currents, weather patterns, seasonal changes as part of their basic education, maintaining connections to maritime traditions that shape their national character. Now you understand the profound contradiction that defines modern Estonia, a nation that achieved the future while never abandoning its past. The lonely women leading matriarchal societies, the atheists who find divinity in ancient forests, the digital citizens who vote online while singing songs that toppled empires, these aren't separate stories. They're chapters in the same remarkable narrative of a culture that refuses to choose between tradition and innovation. Estonia succeeded where countless other societies failed because they understood that true progress means carrying forward what matters while fearlessly embracing what works. Their silence speaks because they learned that authentic communication requires depth, not volume. Their forest worship endures because they never confuse buildings with the divine. Their singing revolution worked because they weaponized their greatest cultural strength. The question this raises is profound. What would your society look like if it possessed this same confidence to evolve while staying true to its deepest identity? Share your thoughts about which aspect of Estonian culture surprised you most. Hit that like button if this documentary changed how you think about the balance between tradition and progress. Subscribe and ring the bell because understanding Estonia means understanding one possible future for human culture where technology serves authenticity rather than replacing it, and where ancient wisdom guides modern innovation.